Hello everyone, Dr. Mike here, TCOM 101. Hope you're doing well today. Hey, I want to continue in this lecture to talk about some of the big companies that dominate in the current economic landscape. Last time we talked about the giant media conglomerates. Well, in this video I want to talk about some of the big tech companies which have emerged to be some of the most valuable companies in the history of the world, and also to talk about some of the service providers in the TCOM industry. So let's look at the big tech companies briefly. These are giant companies that have awesome revenues. Okay, look at Amazon. It brings in over $265 billion every year in sales. Okay, and these companies have incredible valuation or market value on Wall Street. Amazon and Apple, both of them have crossed the $1 trillion threshold. For the first time, we've seen companies worth $1 trillion. Okay, but these are major parts of the economy. They're major players that touch our everyday lives, and they represent some of the biggest and most successful companies in the country right now. Okay, here's a little bit of background on Netflix. Netflix, of course, is the world's leading streaming service. It has 190 million subscribers, and it reaches nearly every country on the planet. Netflix. It's not only changed the distribution model for movies and TV programs, but it's also started to create a bunch of original content. Some of it has won awards, some award-winning original content. So Netflix is also an example of vertical integration, controlling not only content production, but content distribution. The head of Netflix is the founder, Reed Hastings, the founder and the chief executive officer at Netflix. Facebook, another tech giant. Facebook, the social media platform. Facebook has grown into a company that has 2.6 billion, with a B, billion subscribers and users across the planet. Okay, and of course, it also owns some other properties like the Messenger service and WhatsApp, an encrypted messaging service. It owns Instagram, the giant photo sharing site, and it controls Oculus, the company that makes virtual reality headsets, Oculus. The head of Facebook, of course, is the CEO, Mark Zuckerberg. Another enormous player in the tech marketplace is Microsoft. Microsoft is an incredible company that has been around for a long time. Its products include Windows, the operating system, Office, the productivity software. It controls LinkedIn and Skype, and it makes products like the Surface tablet and the Xbox. It's also very, very big, like many of the tech companies, in the cloud computing business. This is a major segment now of Microsoft cloud computing. The current head of Microsoft, the CEO, is Satya Nadella. Google is a huge company. The real name of the company is Alphabet, but most of us know it as Google. Of course, it operates the biggest and most important search engine in the world, Google. And it has a lot of neat AI applications, like the ability to translate languages. But it also sells a browser, Chrome, offers services like Maps and the streaming site YouTube. It sells little laptops, Chromecast computers. Of course, it controls the Google Play Store. Pixel is the Google smartphone. Android, of course, is the operating system that's found on billions of smartphones. Now, Google makes a lot of its money through something called AdSense, and that's how they run that along with the search engine. That's how they target advertising to consumers through a bunch of programs called AdSense, and that's the revenue for Google. The current head of Google is Sundar Pichai. Apple, another incredibly successful tech company. Of course, it makes all kinds of great products. Some desktop computers called Macs and laptop computers, but also tablets, the iPhone, watches, AirPods. Okay, it controls a huge music platform, a music service, and a good streaming service, Apple TV. Okay, and it also tries to make a lot of money in the cloud computing business. The current CEO of Apple is a man named Timothy Cook. Tim Cook. All right, Amazon. Amazon has grown to be one of the most powerful companies in the world. And it's created the richest man, the richest person in the history of the world, Jeff Bezos. Okay, Amazon, of course, is the giant online e-commerce retailer, Amazon.com. You might not know this, but a huge part of Amazon's business is the cloud computing business. They call it Amazon Web Services. They are the cloud provider for many companies, including Netflix. Okay, Amazon also has Prime Video and creates some original content. It has music distribution, and it creates hardware like the Fire tablet and the Echo and the Kindle e-reader. And you might not know this, but Amazon is reaching out into other markets. It purchased Whole Foods recently to get into the food retail marketplace. The head of Amazon, of course, is Jeff Bezos, the founder and the CEO, who by far is the richest person in the history of the world, with a net worth of something like $250 billion. Now, all these tech companies are going to be in the news a lot during the next few years because they're all being targeted by the people in Washington for divestiture. There's a lot of concerns about these tech companies, that they've grown too big and too powerful. And so we can expect Congress and the administration, whether it's the Trump administration or any other administration, to take a critical look at the big tech companies. A lot of people think that it's time to break up these companies. You'll have to come to your own conclusions on these issues. I can point out some of the big issues that they're facing right now, big tech. They're being accused of having monopolies. They are often accused of anti-competitive, unfair business practices that hurt the competition. They're concerned of a lack of, or they're criticized for a lack of concern about consumer data privacy. And more recently, we've heard a lot of allegations that big tech censors some of the conservative voices. And all of these critical issues are being talked about right now in our nation's capital. One of the most important discussions that's going on in Washington right now concerns something called Section 230. This is part of the Communication Decency Act, a law that was passed back in 1996. And why is it so important? It's important in the debate over internet censorship. Anyway, this is the provision, the law that gives the social media companies, Twitter, Facebook, protection from liability for the stuff that gets posted on their platforms. They're not held legally responsible for the content that's posted on their platforms because of the protection given under Section 230. You're going to hear a lot about attempts to repeal this particular law. All right, let's wrap this up with a little discussion about some of the TCOM service providers. These are the folks that actually deliver the communication to our televisions, to our smartphones, and to our many devices. These are the companies like Sprint, Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, the big phone providers. Now, the phone companies are huge and they got big incomes, AT&T pulls in $182 billion every 12 months. And that's a significant annual income. So let's talk about each of these big companies. AT&T is the #1 phone company in America, and it also has different assets that it holds. It's really a conglomerate. Okay, we've talked about one of its holdings, Warner Media. Okay? And so we've already talked about Warner Media and all of its properties in its portfolio. But let me point out that AT&T sells not only phone services, it's really having to invest in 5G, okay? The next generation of wireless broadband. Okay? And did you know it owns DirecTV, the satellite TV company? It purchased this a few years ago, and I think it probably wished it had not made the purchase because DirecTV is losing a lot of subscribers to streaming. Okay, the current head at AT&T is Randall Stephenson, although I think he recently announced his retirement. Randall Stephenson. Verizon, another huge player in the phone industry in America. Verizon sells a lot of phone service, wireless and wireline. It has a product called Fios, which is a fiber optic to the home package that gives you really high-speed internet service. Of course, it's rolling out 5G. You might not know this, but Verizon owns some interesting media companies like America Online, the Huffington Post, Yahoo, and TechCrunch, a tech website. Okay, the current head of Verizon is a man named Hans Vestberg. All right, did you know this? Sprint and T-Mobile have joined forces now. Okay, T-Mobile and Sprint merged this year in a huge deal, $26 billion. So there's incredible concentration of ownership in the telephone industry in America. Let's talk about another service provider, Comcast, the nation's #1 cable and broadband service provider. Comcast, of course, is the parent company of NBC Universal. We talked about NBC Universal in a previous lecture. Okay, but Comcast sells a lot of cable TV, a lot of broadband and internet connectivity, and digital phone services. But it's a conglomerate. It also owns some media companies like NBC and Universal Studios. And it recently launched a streaming service called Peacock, which has already picked up something like 20 million subscribers. Okay, the current head of Comcast is a man named Brian Roberts. Notice that these are mostly males and mostly white males. All right, that's all I've got for this little video. I just wanted to give you a little overview of the big tech companies because in some of the upcoming lectures, we're going to talk more about their business strategies and some of the challenges that they face. But we just wanted to paint a picture in this video. So that's all I got for now. Please take care of yourselves, each other, and the whole community, the whole Ball State community. And I'll see you very soon. So long.